Hi everyone, thanks for joining me here on JKD Handmade. For this tutorial, I'll be making a crochet cushion cover. This cushion cover measures 16 inches or 42 centimeters, and it is a square cushion cover. I will be making the front panel in crochet with a change of colors for the polka dots. For the back of this cushion cover, I'll stitch on fabric to form the backing of the cushion cover. Now, if you prefer your cushion cover fully in crochet, you can go ahead and work this front panel with polka dots as I have done here, and then you will continue on working double crochets in your base color. You will work to the same stitch count to about a few inches from the top of your front panel, and then you'll go ahead and join yarn at that top edge and work an overlapping panel. Now remember, these two panels at the back must overlap by a few inches, and then you can go ahead and seam along the sides to join. Where I have stitched, you will seam those ends to join. Now, like I said, I'll be working my front panel in crochet, and it's only the backing that I will sew on, which I have done by machine. So very quickly, if you do enjoy my tutorials, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Right, so let's get on with this tutorial. For the materials, you will need a cushion inner. Now this is a ready-made cushion inner, which I got from a fabric store. You will also need yarn. I'll be using 100% cotton yarn, and that's a category 3 light worsted or double knit. You will need a base color, and then for the polka dots, you'll need different colors in cotton and of the same weight as your base color. You'll need a 3mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, and then for the backing, you'll need fabric. I'm using a cotton fabric in the similar color as my base color yarn. Now that's if you're using fabric as a backing for this cushion cover. Okay, so let's get on with the tutorial. Working with the base color, form a slip knot. We'll now go ahead and work up a foundation chain for our first round. Chain 2. Into the first chain, yarn over, insert your hook into that first chain, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through 1 loop on the hook. Now you'll see that you formed a little chain, and that chain will be the start of our next stitch. I always place my fingers on that chain just to guide me along. Then yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook, and we've now formed our first stitch. Then yarn over, insert your hook into that chain, going through both loops on that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through 1 loop on the hook. Now you'll see we formed a chain again, and that will be the start of our next stitch. Then yarn over and go through 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. We have now formed our second stitch. Then yarn over, insert your hook into that chain, going through both loops, pull up a loop, with 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through 1 loop on the hook, forming a little chain again for our next stitch, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. So we formed our 3rd stitch. In this manner, you'll continue on to complete your foundation chain. I've continued on and I've completed my foundation chain. Now at this point, if I take that foundation chain and lay it on my cushion inner, it should go from side to side. Now, once you have your foundation chain to the right width to match your cushion inner, you can go ahead and count the number of stitches along that chain, and you'll adjust your stitch count to a multiple of 12 plus 3. For my foundation chain, I had worked 63 stitches, so that 60 is in a multiple of 12, and then I have my 3 extra stitches. And that fits the width of my cushion inner. Now that you've adjusted the stitch count for round 1, round 2, we will chain 2, and chain 2 counts as a double crochet, and we continue on with double crochets into all stitches. I've continued on completing round 2. I have my lengths of yarn ready for the polka dots. Round 3, chain 2 and turn. Work 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. Leave the 5th stitch unfinished with 2 loops on the hook. Bring in your change of color. Bring in your change of color to complete the 5th stitch. We will now form the polka dot in the change of color. Note that round 3 is worked on the right side. You will always push your tail ends onto the wrong side, as I have done here. Into the next 3 stitches, work 1 double crochet each with this change of color. Leave your 3rd stitch unfinished, and then push the tail end to the back and pick up on your base color, and using your base color, complete that 3rd stitch. Into the next 9 stitches, work 1 double crochet each. Leave your 9 stitched unfinished with 2 loops on the hook. And then you'll bring in your next color. Remember that first color that we used, you will keep it aside, and that we will use to complete that first polka dot. So for the next polka dot, you will bring in your next length of yarn. With the change of color, complete that 9th stitch. Pushing all tail ends to the wrong side. Into the next 3 stitches, work 1 double crochet each. Leave your 3rd stitch unfinished with 2 loops on the hook. Pick up on your base color to complete that 3rd stitch. So the stitch pattern for round 3 is 9 double crochets in the base color and 3 double crochets in the change of color. And you'll continue with this stitch pattern to the end of the round. I've continued on and I've completed round 3 with those 9 double crochets in the base color and 3 in the change of color. I ended with 6 double crochets in the base color. Round 4, chain 2 and turn. We're now working on the wrong side. Into the next 4 stitches, work 1 double crochet each. Leave the 4th stitch unfinished and keeping that tail end on the wrong side as I have done here. Pick up on my change of color for the first polka dot and use that change of color to complete the 4th stitch. Into the next 4 stitches, work 1 double crochet each in the change of color. Leave the 4th stitch unfinished. Pick up on your base color to complete the 4th stitch. Into the next 8 stitches, work 1 double crochet each. Leaving the 8th stitch unfinished, and I've just stopped 1 stitch short of my change of color. So you'll pick up on your change of color to complete that 8th stitch. Into the next 4 stitches, work 1 double crochet each in the change of color. Leaving the 4th stitch unfinished, pick up on your base color. Into the next 8 stitches, work 8 double crochets, and then you'll continue on with 4 stitches in the change of color. Continue to the end of the round. I've continued on completing round 4. I worked 6 double crochets to complete the round. So I've continued on and I've completed round 5, round 6, round 7 and round 8. Round 5 was just a repeat of round 3. And then round 6, 7 and 8 was chain 2, turn, and I double crocheted all stitches in the base color. I've continued on to complete the front panel of this cushion cover. So here are rounds 9, 10 and 11, and then rounds 12, 13 and 14 was just chain 2, turn, double crochet all stitches in the base color. You will repeat rounds 3 to round 14 to complete the front panel of this cushion cover. This cushion cover measures around 16 inches in width. So that's 42 centimeters, and it measures the same in length. It is a square panel. You may now check that the cushion panel fits nicely over the cushion inner. You may work rounds of double crochet along the sides to lengthen on the panel. We will now use the center front panel as a guide when cutting our fabric backing. So here I've cut 2 pieces of fabric. Using that center front panel as a guide when cutting, you can see that my first piece of fabric is slightly shorter than that of the panel, and that's around 3 to 4 inches shorter. So you will also see that I have extended the sides of that panel, and that's the seam allowance, and I will fold those edges over into the cushion, into the wrong side of the cushion, like so, before stitching. So this was the first panel. And then for the second fabric panel, you'll see that I used my first panel as a guide, and I cut the second panel just slightly more than half of my first panel. Keep in mind that these panels must overlap in order for that cushion inner not to stick out, or rather to sufficiently hide the cushion inner. I've gone ahead and neatened up the edges of these panels, and I've also stitched along the one edge of the panel, as you see here. Now for my crochet panel, I have not weaved in any ends. I just knotted them and cut off the excess. That will go on the wrong side. So my larger of the two fabric panels, I'll place it on top of my crochet panel like I'm doing here. And then those ends, the seam allowance ends, I'll fold it inwards and pin it all in place. Now take the second panel, the smaller panel, and pin it into place on the top edge, like I am doing here, making certain to overlap your panels. I've machine stitched all around my cushion cover to join those fabric panels to the crochet panel. And that completes this tutorial. Thank you for watching.